not every day that I see planes other than the Boeing 737 on my travels, since most of my flights begin out of Houston Hobby Airport that is dominated by Southwest Airlines, and all of their fleet is Boeing 737s. So since I had enough time in Atlanta Jackson International Airport, which is pretty much operated by everything Delta, I knew I was able to see a lot more planes other than the 737, like this Airbus right here. And of course, for the customer's needs, they don't rely on just one brand of plane, including this Boeing 717. You know, in my early spotting days, I still couldn't decipher what was the difference between the Boeing 717 and the MD-80s, although I understand the MD-80s have been officially discontinued as of late. But make no mistake, those are still beautiful birds to look at. In fact, all birds are beautiful to look at, no matter what their size, make, or model. Now, the larger carriers like Delta and American, they have a whole smorgasbord of makes and models. Like you see the Airbuses right here, but you can also see the old school Boeings coming in as well. Like this very long narrow body 757. I was really hoping that I would come across a Dreamliner or at least a 777, but I don't think I was able to come across it today because my transfer window between the planes here for Southwest was pretty small. But nevertheless, I will always take every single opportunity to catch as many birds as I can. I normally don't start a flight video with spotting footage from an airport, but given how few birds I was able to get, I decided to go ahead and include it in here before we board the plane to go on to Pittsburgh. Speaking of, wasn't it just a happy coincidence that shortly after my plane arrived, Southwest pushed back Maryland 1 to go out for departure. Now, I have spotted Maryland 1 before back at Houston Hobby. You can always check out my spotting videos from Houston to find Maryland 1. It is a very interesting design. In fact, every single design of Southwest Airlines' livery, especially for the States, has always been cool to look at. Now, my personal favorite is, of course, Lone Star 1, with Freedom 1 being a razor-sharp close second. I know I'm a Texan first and American second. That's just my mentality. Speaking of Freedom 1, I was lucky and fortunate enough to capture her last year in one of my videos at Houston Hobby as well. Be sure to check that out too. It is such a gorgeous livery. If you're American or just love the United States of America and the star-spangled beauty that it is so worth the viewing. Go check it out. After you watch this flight, of course.
In the event of a water evacuation, you're going to use a life vest under your seat. Remove the vest when we told to do so. Pull the rest rack to open the container and remove the pouch. Remove the vest from the pouch as shown in the safety information card. You're going to place that vest over your head. Wrap the strap around your waist. Buckle in front and pull to tighten. Once outside, pull it down on the red tab to inflate the vest. Conveniently inflate, go into the tube at your shoulder. Your vest has life insurance on automatically in the water. Please refer to the safety information card for the use of a life vest on the infant. Flight attendants will distribute additional vests if needed. We're coming by to check that your seatbelts are fastened, your seat back and tray tables are in full upright line position, all your carrier items are stowed completely underneath the seat in front of you or in the overhead bin, leaving the area around your feet clear. Smoking is not allowed on board, including the lavatory. The use and charge of electronic cigarettes is prohibited. Federal law prohibits tampering with, disabling, or destroying smoke detectors in an aircraft lavatory. It is also prohibited to consuming alcohol that you have brought with you on this flight. If you're traveling with children or anyone needing special assistance, put on your mask first. Please remove any face cover before donning an oxygen mask. Once again, family, we are here for your comfort and safety. Please report your unwelcome behavior to a flight attendant. We have 1 hour and 20 minutes of flight time together to Pittsburgh. So at this time, we're also going to go ahead and dim cabin lights. If you need additional lighting, look up top. That's where your flight attendant call button is. And air vent if you're too hot or too cold. Welcome aboard.
Just to give you an idea on the state of the company that is Delta Airlines, let's take a look at an article from news.delta.com written on October 4th, 2024. Headline: Delta at ATL. Bigger and bolder at the world's largest airline hub in summer 2025. Delta is ready to offer 1.1 million weekly seats, 968 daily flights, and service to 215 destinations this summer from Atlanta, its largest schedule ever. With nearly 75 additional daily departures compared to summer 2024, this growth reaffirms its place as the world's largest airline hub. For Delta, Atlanta is more than a hub, it's home. That's why in summer 2025, Delta will introduce its largest ever schedule from Atlanta, offering customers even more destinations, increased frequencies, and enhanced premium experiences that highlight the airline's commitment to supporting the city's growth. Quote, home to the world's busiest and most efficient airport, Atlanta's position as a global leader for cultural and business connectivity is only enhanced by Delta's expansion of their domestic and international network, said Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens, who also said, as our hometown airline and the state's largest private employer, Delta plays an integral role in our economy through workforce opportunities, community investments, and meaningful partnerships. Delta's international footprint from Atlanta also continues to grow, now spanning 66 international destinations around the world, including recently announced new service to Naples and Brussels, and increased flying to Rome, Zurich, Barcelona, Athens, Cancun, and Toronto, as well as sun-drenched Barbados and picturesque Curacao. On the domestic front, Delta continues to increase its flight offerings, with recently enhanced service to across the U.S. The expanded flying includes the largest ever schedule in its home state of Georgia, with 20% more interstate seats to Savannah, Augusta, Albany, Brunswick, Columbus, and Valdosta, reinforcing Delta's commitment to improving regional connectivity across the Peach State. But Delta's presence in Atlanta is about more than just destinations. It's about delivering a premium existence worthy of the city's dynamic spirit. With 41,000 daily premium seats, including Delta One, First Class, Delta Premium Select, and Delta Comfort Plus, Delta ensures that the journey matches the destination. This marks an impressive 9% year-to-year increase in premium seating, showing Delta's commitment to creating unparalleled comfort for its customers. Whether flying for business, pleasure, or anything in between, Delta is elevating the journey with spacious cabins, top-tier service, and unmatched reliability. Delta's focus on comfort is further emphasized with 87% of Atlanta departures now operating on mainline aircraft, an increase from 79% in 2019. Atlanta has grown alongside Delta to become a key global travel center, hosting the airline's largest and most crucial operation, which made up over 70% of the airport's total traffic in 2023. Over the past decade, Delta has invested more than $12 billion in modernizing and upgrading its network of hubs into state-of-the-art facilities. In Atlanta, Delta has contributed significantly to the airport's $10.8 billion redevelopment program, which includes expanding Concourse D. Plans to open a new Delta Sky Club before summer 2025, double the size of the existing one, and the introduction of a touchless experience at bag drop and security using digital ID. Delta's commitment to customer comfort extends down Atlanta, with renovations coming to all 9 Delta Sky Clubs, starting with Concourse A, further enhancing the customer experience. These clubs continue to provide best-in-class food and beverage options, thoughtful amenities, and stylish facilities where eligible customers can relax before their journey. Atlanta travelers also enjoy Delta's highest convenience schedules. With 56 markets featuring 8 or more daily flights, Delta offers the frequency that both business travelers and families need for easy planning, ensuring flights are available when and where customers need them most.
Double check your seatbelts and we'll be clear for departure. Enjoy your flight.
There's a few more paragraphs to our article, but as with every article that I read from, I will always provide the sourcing to it in the video description. So click on the link if you want to read more of this article. According to airnav.com, Atlanta Jackson International Airport has 5 major runways running east and west. First one, 9L27R, is 12,390 feet long and 150 foot wide. Runway 8R26L is 9,999 feet long and 150 foot wide. Runway 8L26R is 9,000 feet long and 150 foot wide. Runway 9R27L is also 9,000 feet long and 150 feet wide. And runway 1028, 9,000 feet long and 150 foot wide. With these 5 major runways, it can accommodate a lot of traffic, not just for Delta, but for other carriers as well. And obviously, the size of the aircraft will also determine which runway you need to go for departure. Sometimes I do get asked, which one is scarier for you, takeoff or landing? Well, initially when I was a kid, takeoff was the most nerve-wracking. Because on the very first flight, the attendant was having a little fun with me and saying that when the takeoff thrust hits, it would throw me right into the back of the chair. And they weren't lying. But once you hit the gas, it's just like hitting the gas on your car. It's just a lot more powerful. It does send you to the back of the chair, but it is still a great thrill. Enjoy the flight.
reach 10,000 feet to use them all portable electronic devices and now moving in airplane mode. In just a few moments, flight attendants will be moving the cabin to take your drink orders. We do have complimentary soft drink, juice, and coffee. Premium selection including alcohol are also available for purchase with a valid digital drink you want. Once again, family, we do have 2 lavatories on board, one in the front, one in the back. You're not allowed to form a line or congregate at the front lavatory. And then relax for the rest of your 1 hour and 10-minute flight to Pittsburgh.
The only downside to trying to video or photograph in a window that's facing the sun is that the glare off of the window doesn't make it easy to spot. So again, there was plenty of moments in this flight where I've had to cut out so much footage because the glare or the haze outside was disrupting the autofocus on the camera. So I always do my best to make as many long continuous shots as possible of great scenery in the skies and looking down at the skies, but it can be hard when you have glare in the window and if there is low level or high level haze impeding your camera's vision. So, but as always, I will always do my best to give you the best sights no matter what. Props to Southwest for letting us hook up to their Wi-Fi to continuously see our status of where we are in the world and how fast the plane is going and at what altitude. And I know some people read magazines or read books or snooze on the flight. Me, I just love to jam to my music. In case you don't know, I am 100% American, but I am 1000% Texan. As stated in my last video, most of Southwest flights don't last any more than 4 hours, so they always provide their customers with at least a snack and a drink option. These pretzel twists, just like on my previous flight, were very tasty with a unique butter and garlic twist to it. It was really effective. Just enough to tide over for a 1.5 hour flight. I know everyone has their own little tradition or ritual or whatever when they fly. Usually along with that pretzel snack, I usually indulge in a little bit of ginger ale, and that's really the only time that I have ginger ale. But nevertheless, if it works, it works. And then you can also see where exactly I'm at in the cabin as the air vent rained down on the microphone there. Sorry about that. always find it so beautiful when you're looking at a bunch of rolling hills of forest and then see a big community or town just pop up out of nowhere among the forest and the mountains and the hills. That truly is one of the most beautiful sights that you could ever behold as you're up in the air looking down. in this image, you are looking at my very first sighting of Pittsburgh International Airport, PIT. I will go more into facts and figures and a little bit of history on her in just a moment. I remember as a teenager, when I was on a flight, I landed at Houston Hobby Airport in the worst fog I have ever experienced. That one landing made me very nervous and very uptight. But it was also at the time that I did not know the amazing technologies that pilots now use to navigate to a very safe landing and coast on in no matter what. All the technology from GPS to autopilot to everything they use to keep everyone safe on landing has really improved over the last 35 years. And it's very comforting to know that information. Don't be afraid to do your research on that, ladies and gentlemen. The more you know, the more you grow. On a flight and the reverse thrusters do not wake you up, then you have a special kind of sleeping ability that I wish I had. Either way, picture perfect landing with great reverse thrust, and apparently a few passengers thought so too. and we are in Pittsburgh.
On behalf of this Nashville-based crew of Southwest Airlines, welcome to Pittsburgh, where the local time is 4:21 p.m. Please remain seated with your seatbelt fastened until we park at the gate and the flight deck is turned and fasten seatbelt sign off. Please use caution when open or overhead bins of items may help shift during your flight and could fall out. You may now use a cell phone whenever within reach. If you are continuing on to another destination here in Pittsburgh, please check the monitors in the terminal or ask the ops agent for your flight gate number information. This is the termination of this flight, so everyone will be deplaning, so please double check your seatbelt pockets. Around your feet area, make sure you have all your belongings, phones, keys, wallets, tablets, book, AirPods, everything, because once you step off, you're not allowed to return. Once again, please make sure you have all your belongings. We know you have many choices when you choose to fly. We thank you so much for choosing the Southwest. On this lovely Monday, go out, be safe, have a good rest of your week, and remember to always live life and do what makes you happy. Welcome to Pittsburgh.
For an abbreviated history on Pittsburgh International Airport, we turn to airport-guides.com. During the early 1940s, the need for a military airport in the Pittsburgh area became clear, and nearby farmland covering most 2,000 acres was purchased. Located next to the town of Moon, the airfield was soon established, and by the mid-1940s, a new commercial terminal was being constructed at the cost of more than $30 million. In 1952, the Greater Pittsburgh International Airport was inaugurated and soon began to ease the traffic at the already overstretched Allegheny County Airport in West Mifflin, located on Pittsburgh's southerly outskirts. In its very first year, the airport served almost 1.5 million passengers, instantly becoming one of the country's largest and busiest airports, and today still ranks in America's top 40. More than 13,000 parking spaces are spread among short-term, long-term, and extended parking areas, linked to the terminals and its 4 concourse areas by a moving walkway and clearly showing the scale of operations at Pittsburgh Airport. Within the airport terminals, passengers will be pleased to enjoy an array of amenities, including cash points, a chapel, post offices, and FedEx drop-off points, and smart card passenger centers. On-site is Hyatt Regency Pittsburgh International Airport, which boasts more than 300 guest rooms, a large ballroom, and 24-hour business center, being connected to the airport by a fully enclosed moving walkway. Those in need of U.S. dollars at Pittsburgh Airport will find TravelX counters. While if you have time to pamper yourself, be sure to pay a visit to the Express Spa and enjoy a facial, manicure, or massage. Restaurants and shops are also in good supply, so be prepared to max out your credit card at the 30-plus stores clustered around the central core area. These include Brighton Collectibles, Brooks Brothers, Purdy's Travel Mart, PGA Tour Shop, and Toto. It was very interesting to me to see that the runways and taxiways were spread so far forward of the main terminal, which is a helix design. But it was only shortly after that I realized that we're in a very mountainous terrain with a lot of hills, and so the fact that they were able to get this like this is amazing in itself. I'll talk to you more about that whenever we fly out of Pittsburgh, which will be forthcoming. In the meantime, hope you enjoyed the flight, hope you enjoyed the sights, and I hope you enjoyed the commentary as well. This is SFAPowerhouse signing off from Pittsburgh. Y'all take care, God bless, and enjoy the flight.